How's it going, everybody? Just Lord back in action. Make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button. Let's start the year off great. Happy New Year's. I haven't been on here in quite a while. I'm gonna try to get back on here and make some videos. I'm gonna do my battle of the ports here from some different systems that I like. TurboGrafx, Super Nintendo, and was it Sega Genesis? A couple of games I liked growing up. I got Aladdin here, which was a great game on the Genesis. You can't go wrong with Aladdin on the Genesis. You know, the animation, great. I'm going to say, it wasn't, the platforming wasn't 100% all there, but to me, this was still a great looking game. Very close to what the movie looked like. So definitely another great one to play. I do remember when it came out on the Super NES, I definitely had to get this. To me, this was more of a platformer, and it was basically like, I played Prince of Persia before, and this is basically, to me, what I would have wanted Prince of Persia, how Prince of Persia should have played. And just in my opinion, I'm not going to sit here and say everybody likes this Aladdin or it should be Prince of Persia, but that's, in my opinion, I would have liked this to be, this is what Prince of Persia should have been on consoles at the time. But Prince of Persia, don't let me think that you was a bad game. Prince of Persia, it was a pretty good game. But here we go. Got next one, another port right here. We had Sparkster, which is Rocket Knight's Adventures Part 2 on the Genesis. This one came in playing basically like Rocket Knight. I didn't like, to me, the first game's art style was much better. I didn't like that they changed his character design, but still, this was an awesome game right here. I definitely went through this. I definitely played this, beat this about a couple times. I definitely liked this back then. And then I remember getting it on the Super NES. I believe I rented this from Blockbusters at the time. And this was another great game. I mean, to me, the graphics and the colors look a little bit better on the Super Nintendo. You will find some good slowdown in this game. But in those times, FPS and all that didn't matter to you as a kid. You just thought that was a part of the game. And that's what so many people complain about now, is the FPS. But back then, you didn't really care about it. I don't know who really did. I can't say none of my friends ever bring up FPS about anything. I mean, we just played the games we had. This was another good one that came out here. This was Tiny Toons. This was another great little platformer right here. Definitely, to me, this was like an upgrade to the NES version. More so than the Super Nintendo version to me. I definitely loved this game, definitely played through it, had a lot of levels, the little world map. So this was definitely a little great Tiny Toons game right here. If you haven't played it, I would not pass that up. Maybe one day they'll make a little Tiny Toons collection and bring that back out. But then I got Buster Bust Loose here, to me, which was a little bit more graphically superior to the Genesis version, with the color and the animation. And I always thought Super Nintendo did good with animation wise with their games, and I liked a lot about the Super Nintendo. To me, each system has its perks. Like I said, I'm an all systems guy, so I don't really have a system that I would gravitate towards. I mean, if anything, I would say like I would go towards the Nintendo more, because just their games, to me, still to this day stand the test of time. Like, you can go back and play a lot of Super Nintendo games, and those games still look great and run great. And you can't really say that about like other consoles. Like, so you can't go back and say I'm gonna play some PlayStation games and these games look great, because a lot of them don't. But this was Tiny Toons All Stars for the Genesis, another great game. And they definitely came out with a port on Super Nintendo, which had different games than what the Genesis had. The Genesis had like a lot of sports games, and Super Nintendo had like a lot of carnival games, and both still great games. And definitely one you want to play multiplayer. Like I said, you can't go wrong with these games. I mean, when we had these, I used to play them all the time with my brothers and friends, and we used to get it in back in the day. So if you haven't played any of those Tiny Toons Wacky Sports games, go try them out, man. Those are some good games for, you know, a little bit of fun. You know, got a couple of people over, pull out the classics. I do it all the time. So people, you know, you won't realize how amazed people are with the classics until you pull them out, and everybody want to play. So like, I do it all the time. People who are not gamers and stuff like that. Oh, you got that? I remember this when I was little. So, you know, great games are always gonna strive through, no matter what era. I remember Batman Returns. Hated this game on the Genesis, but I will put it up here because they did port basically Batman Returns on the Super Nintendo, which was a beat 'em up, which was right down my alley with Final Fight, Streets of Rage, and games like that. So this was definitely the Batman Returns that I liked. That Genesis one, to me, better on a Sega CD because they had the driving levels, but that campaign version, can't do that. Won't do it. But yeah, Batman Returns on Super Nintendo, that is a pickup right there. Definitely play that, even if you can just play it one playthrough. You know, give yourself 2 hours, you're in that. Then we got here another great game. Now this was a good one on the Genesis right here. It was more like a Contra run and gun type of Batman game. This was Batman and Robin. Another great one. I was definitely showing off what the Genesis could do at its old age, because I remember my brother basically bought the Genesis day one, and when it came out, and that was definitely I'm sure that was like 89 or so when my brother came home. But I definitely remember that day very clearly, when just playing Alter Beats for the first time. Never saw it in the arcade at that point till I seen it in on the Genesis. But I do believe I saw it in the arcade after I seen it on the Genesis. But this was another one, Batman and Robin on basically on the Super Nintendo. Another great game right here. I traded 3 games just to get this one. Don't remember what the 3 games was, but I know it added up to get this. I used to trade like maybe 2 and then give you 1 for free. But definitely another great game right here. Batman and Robin looks just like the animated series. Can't go wrong. And then we have Outrun here on the Genesis. What can I say? I'm an Outrun head. I own this on everything. So I own this on the Genesis. I own this on the Game Boy Advance, I believe. I own this on the Switch. I love Outrun. I even own this on. I even have the Sega Ages. I even have that on the Saturn, sitting somewhere in my collection. But definitely another great game in the Outrun series. Not flawless, not arcade perfect, definitely not. Even the car doesn't reflect the arcade, but definitely still has that classic Outrun music that I like. And you know, as long as it plays close to what the arcade is, I'm good with that. And then we have this was a good one right here. This is my only TurboGrafx 16 game on here, which was Outrun on the TurboGrafx. I remember we imported this, and if anybody knew about importing back in the day, we used to have like a little store by us that would sell like all the imports, but you know, selling at ridiculous prices so that you could play them. And I used to love that back in the days. They used to have converters and little extra gadgets so you can play the imports. So definitely back in those days, that was cool. Then we have Sunset Riders here, which was the Genesis version. To me, this version is definitely not like the arcade. The graphics is not up to par, but it's still Sunset Riders. I mean, it was still like, you know, the game I know from the arcade, but it definitely wasn't looking like the arcade or close to it. But I think the Super Nintendo had the better version on this one. But still, if you was a Genesis guy, play the Genesis version. If you're a Super Nintendo guy, play the Super Nintendo version. Because you see the Super Nintendo got that color, that pop. Definitely got looks closer to the arcade, and I believe it has the arcade layout that the Genesis version didn't have. But it was still both, like I said, both still good, both great games. You ain't gonna find better games than when Konami was making these 4-player games in the arcade, and these games was classics. Definitely a quarter muncher back in the days. Definitely used to love that game. And then I'm gonna move on to another Konami. Then we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters here on the SEGA Genesis. Not a great game. Can't really say this was a great game. It was okay. I believe we didn't play this as much as the Super Nintendo version. We played the Super Nintendo version way more than we even tried this. I know I traded this game. I think I remember what I got. I traded a couple games to get Virtual Racing on the Genesis, which was at that time, like, you having a 3D driving game was crazy on the Genesis. So if anybody grew up in that time, they know what I'm talking about. But yeah, Tournament Fighters, much better game on the Super Nintendo to me. We played this one a lot. I mean, because we was definitely at this time Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat heads. So definitely to get another fighter that you actually like, and you would choose it over sometimes playing Street Fighter and stuff like that, because we were Street Fighter'd out. But definitely having another good fighting game around. It's not the best fighter, but it definitely was okay. But here we go. We got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Hyperstone Heist. Another good game right here. Definitely with its own levels and remixes of levels. So you're gonna get what you purchase here right here. You want to play Turtles basically like the arcade. Here you go on the Genesis. Back in these times, you couldn't go wrong with the ports that they were making, man. They were making some good ports, and you couldn't go wrong with that, man. Definitely I want to pick up the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Hyperstone Heist, and one of the better Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games, which is Turtles in Time, one of my favorites on the Super NES. I was pretty bummed they didn't have the 4 players, but I understood why. Back then, I don't believe the multi-tap was out yet. I definitely remember that coming with Bomberman, and when I bought that in that big ass box that came out. But I do remember that this was definitely a great game. And who's going to pass on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Time? Nobody. I do remember this. This was Rondo of Blood. I did not have the Turbo CD. That's one thing. I had the Sega CD. I did not have the Turbo Duo, or the PC Engine CD, as they call it. I did not have that. I did not play this game until years later. Even though I knew about emulation, I still didn't play this game. I played this on the PSP, I believe, when they had the collection. That was my first time playing it, and got to find out this was a great Castlevania game that all those years ago I missed it, but I do remember playing this on Super NES, and totally different game. I do remember renting this, I believe, from Blockbuster Video. I was at my brother's, and I remember beating this at his house, and I was like, it was alright. I didn't think it was the greatest Castlevania, which is to me still Castlevania 4 for me. That was my best Castlevania game, and I don't feel like this one held a candle to that. But it still was a good, playthrough. I'm not gonna call it a bad game, but it was a decent playthrough. It's not like one of my top Castlevanias. But thank y'all for watching. Please like and subscribe.